Hello. Welcome back to Selling Frankston. Hope you guys are having a fabulous day. We are. We're
We
back.
are having a great day, Josh. Good to hear your voice again.
Yeah, we've been unwell the last couple of
It's been, thanks, Mum. Gaz. Went down to see my mum in beautiful sunny Warrigal. And unbeknownst to me, my stepdad had the flu. And when we got there, we found out he was sick. Had we probably known, we probably wouldn't have gone down. Hence why Mum probably was hush on the...
I'm going down there on Sunday.
I wouldn't go there. I'd check, just find out.
Maybe I'll ask. All right, in today's
episode, love you.
You really went on a tangent there. All right, in today's episode, guys, we're talking about how to choose the right agent for your property. Now, the reason we're talking about that, 2 weeks ago, Josh Tesolin, a New South Wales real estate agent, was banned for 10 years.
Yeah.
10 years. And there's a lot that's come out. I think he was unlawful. Documents had been falsified. He'd underquoted over 100 properties. And what was the other one? I think he had...
I think he underquoted, falsified documents.
And false bidding, dummy bidding.
False bidding at auctions, yes.
Yeah, that's not... Look, when you saw that story and it's come out amongst the industry, there's a lot of division at the moment. A lot of people are going hard. Also doesn't help that he posted a photo of a really beautiful watch that probably cost an arm and a leg for anyone after the 10-year suspension. But what did you think straight away? What was your thoughts?
Look, I think it's firstly, I don't know Josh. I've seen him at Arac talk and saw many coaches that we get coached by, really use him as an example of how things should go. But if you look at it, to micromanage someone completely on a day-to-day basis, unfortunately, there's been a lot of division within the industry.
The reason as well for that is because he was the top agent across all of
he was
Australia. So he won all the awards that you could win. He was selling over 360 homes a year under his team, one a day, and that was his mantra. And it is pretty.
Look, he made over $9 million in gross fees, so that shows you that he was very active in the marketplace, and he was very good at what he did. I think the thing that's disappointing is some of the people that were sort of on the peripheral or training and endorsing Josh probably didn't know to the full extent of what he was doing. No. And I don't think anyone can do it. For you to sit there and say, oh, yeah, I know. And we see it. Like you see politicians, you see footballers, you see people.
I was going to say, it's not the first time
time someone's been affiliated with someone who was doing the wrong thing.
Well,
what I'm trying to say is there's people that are quick to pull down, and it's a bit of a tall poppy syndrome here in Australia where there's been trainers that their names are now being in the mud because whether they were MC at the wedding or best man or whatever, all of a sudden these guys are now affiliated and now, they're getting,
must have done something to do with it.
Look, and I think at the end of the day, Josh has been, he's been found guilty. Ray White were quick to come out and talk about it because he worked for Ray White Quakers Hill, I think it was.
Yeah.
And look, to be upfront, is Ray White, he
did. So just before we get into the whole Ray White story, he did change brands straight away to another brand instantly as soon as he got let go from Ray White when it all came out.
Okay.
And then I don't know what that brand was, but then they suspended him indefinitely until they came out with a final verdict, was the 10-year ban.
Yeah.
Like we said, he was the top performing agent. I think from a volume perspective, no other agent. I mean, how many... You think about your good and your great agents.
Look,
you would have put him in extraordinary.
It's extraordinary numbers that he was doing. What was probably the most thing that I look at is the underquoting. I think it was something like over 100 properties that he transacted were underquoted. And what they mean by that is, say the owners were wanting $1 million. Basically, he was quoting 19% below
on average.
On average, so it'd be like putting a range of say 820 to 850, and the owners are wanting
even less. It was pretty much like it would be around 7. 750 to 800 and then selling it for $1 million.
Yeah. And
Close
look,
to.
you know, and knowing too well that the other comps in the area are indicating $1 million. Let's quote that's underquoting at its best. Look, it's unfortunate. I think from an industry perspective, I've been in it for 25 years. Is this new? No, it's been around for a long time. I mean, I got into real estate 25 years this year, and I remember they used to do auctions, and it was dummy bidding. So there was people, the auctioneer would be calling and be pointing at a tree and saying, "Yep, I'll take your bid," and you'd be looking there going,
Who said that?
Who's standing there? And there wasn't anyone there. And you know, talking to past, you know, people that were in the industry, they said, look, you know, there was a lot of things there. There's been mention of, you know, certain people that would go to auction, and that's where, you know, the dummy bidding got, you know, outlawed here in Australia, and Victoria.
Wait, so they would did they have people that they would call on?
Yeah,
as
they
like
would.
almost
Yeah,
like their job.
Yeah, well, it wasn't their job. Oops. It wasn't their jobs as such. I'm just going to turn that off. What it was more about, you know, they had, say for an example, an agent had, you know, 6 auctions in the month, and they would say, look, you need to be a bit of a hare. We may only have 1 or 2 people running on it. We need you to be there, to put your hand up, start the bidding, be a hare like in the greyhounds, to get out there and then let the greyhounds run past. So they were. It was known that there was that tactic, and that's why they tried to outlaw the dummy bidding. I still believe that there's still dummy bidding that does still evolve.
Happens.
It does happen. And I think at the end of the day, there's to be able to be open and transparent. Like you go to, like we've got auctions and there's people there and you go, geez, I didn't even know that they were going to be bidding. And you know, and they were genuinely bidding.
Yeah.
But you know, if someone said, "Oh, are you a legitimate bidder or you a legitimate bidder?" I think.
Well, actually, what quantifies or like
quantifies
qualifies that from an audit? Let's break this down from an audit perspective. I think New South Wales are a little bit different. They can falsify.
They have to register.
Yeah.
They have to register. So that's where it's a little bit. That's quite interesting because they had a lot of registered bidders by the sounds of it.
Yeah, that they falsified documents.
And they were falsified documents, and they were falsifying some documents, I believe, to say, because in New South Wales you have to declare if you've had an offer on a property.
Yeah. So you could
say they would falsify a document and say here, this is what's going on. But look, let's not get into the intricate details. I think
it doesn't help the industry though, and I think that's
look,
what.
It doesn't,
and I think, but as an industry, I do think it's important, and you made mention of it when it first came out. There's a lot of division. There always is. There's always one side that goes to the other extreme and the other one that goes polar opposite. And then there's all the people that line up in the middle. And I think it is disappointing to see, some people go at affiliate, people to Josh that really had, they've just been industry people that are great coaches.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's anything wrong, but I can understand from a day-to-day person, a seller and a buyer, you would sit there and go, how bloody frustrating. Like if you'd been buying and selling with Josh and you knew this now, you'd go, damn it. But at the same time, did he increase prices? Did he? I don't know. You can't look at those options.
I think, look, at the end of the day, it's done. There's going to be another one. I can assure you there'll be another Josh Tesolin out there that, aspires to be doing that, to get to be underquoting to that extreme, especially as people in property, we know what it's worth. It's a little bit different in Queensland. Here in Victoria, we've got the strictest laws in terms of we've got to have a statement of information. And it's quite difficult sometimes where we know, and I'll give an example, right? We have seen other agents, right, where we've gone and praised the property and we said, look, based on recent sales, you're comfortably here, and here. And let's say it's worth 2 million, and then the other agents that come out will say, look, just to secure the business, we think you're 2.5 to 2.8 or 2.75, right? You're going to have to be within 10%. So 2.5 to
hold on though, there are a lot of agents that don't give a 10% variance.
I know that. So, they've been doing a bit like you hear to hear, and it's like a 20% variance. So,
but just we've made mention. I don't think we've ever said this on the podcast.
Yep,
we are not the governors of the price. We are governors of the process.
Correct.
The one thing that real estate agents cannot just come in and walk in and go, oh, I know it's exactly, this is what the buyer's going to exactly pay. We can work off a bare minimum based on what's comparably out there and what the market's doing, the buy, who the current buyers are, how big your buyer pool would be. But outside of that, like how are you meant to know it's so finite?
Yeah, and that's something that, you know, we have that regular discussion with our sellers every week in their lounge rooms, discussing with them. And look, you know, I had a client just the other day. You know, Juan, I think my property's worth $5 million. Next door sold for 4.5, and it's a superior better. I don't know, my house is better. I think mine's worth 5, and I'm like, mate, if anything, you're probably sitting at, you know, a little bit less than that. Yeah, and this is the thing. Like, I could turn around and say, yeah, he'll get 5, sign him up, take the advertising money, and there's agents out there to do that. This
actually did bring me to a new point, because obviously Tesolin got found to be quoting 19% lower than where he would end up selling. So, but you look at the other side of it. So there's punishment on underquoting, and very extreme, you know, as we can just see. What about the opposing? What about the overquoting? Because there's a lot of agents that will win the business just by, and we've been trained. You know, from an industry perspective, the trainers are the ones copying it, but they're also being legitimate trainers. They're trying to come in and say, hey, price your property at market value. But then you've got agents that come in and will just secure the business. In the paperwork, they'll also put fixed fees with, hey, if your property is worth, hypothetically, let's say it's actually worth 1.5, but they've gone and said to the owner 1.7 to 1.8, and then they've put their fee in. So they go, hey, we work off 2%, but we'll put it in as a dollar figure, not as a performance base. So if you win and you get more, we get 2% of whatever you sell for. They've put in 2%. So under 1 point,
so they've done a
35,000, and they've just put that in. But say you end up selling for 1.6, 1.5, did they change their fee?
No. And this is a thing that getting back to, I get that question a lot. They say, Juan, do you work on, performance based, or do you have fixed fees? Look, I work on a percentage, and that's a performance base. And to me, I've seen situations where it's very, very important to be able to know if we can't get that price, well, then we shouldn't be paid. We get paid what we're getting. If we get a great price, well then, absolutely. Like some clients will say, look, we're happy to pay. And so it's a kicker. So if we don't get a great result, we don't get a great fee. If we get a great result, we get a great fee. So too many sellers at the moment really pick an agent on fee, and they'll go, oh, you're like, more than 0.5% to, nearly 1% more than the other agents. Yeah, we are. We're just being upfront with you and explaining to you where it's at. Now,
but then you look at the level of service, and we've seen deals with, off-market buyers where they've approached the owner directly. There's been headaches that have occurred. You've seen, because the owner doesn't know they need to follow up for finals. If they don't have a team behind them and it's a single agent, that single agent, if they're managing more than 6 homes on their own at any given point in time, and they're transacting, 4 a month, they're going to be absolutely under the pump. They're going to be chockers. If you're running 40 deals in a year, you need at least a team of 2. Minimum. So I do think that you're spot on with that. So red flag 1 would be if
someone says, oh, look, we can do a percentage and then a kicker, and especially in a buoyant market. And so they say, well, look, if we go to auction, we set the reserve here. Anything above that figure, we get an extra percentage.
Look, I think, let's be real though, if it is a very ambitious price that the owner does want to achieve, but they're wanting to use you, you've gone on a base of where you think, you've said, this is what I think. They've come back and said, this is what we think. And you go, well, okay, are you happy for us to go at this level? This is your absolute dream price though. It's not what you would take, but it's your dream.
Well,
is that okay to not go, okay, maybe I do, if I did hit that major.
To be upfront, Josh, and that's a really good question.
I'm going to, because the reason I say it, just hear me, because if that owner probably in their right mind with the digital age.
Say they want $1 million, and you've priced it at
I've said 850 to around to 930. That's pretty much where I see it.
Okay, so if the client wants $1 million, just to put it in plain sight, right? And they say we're going to have a kicker, you'll get a kicker over $1 million. The thing here is this: if you're quoting 850 to 930, and the owners are wanting $1 million, that's underquoting.
Yes, that's
I need you to be very clear on that, because
that's
always
dream price, right?
Well, everyone has a dream price, but I always say to people, this is what I say.
What's
guys,
your permission? What if I had to put a reserve in right now today?
Yep.
Obviously, we're not going to know until the market comes through, right? We need to quote a range that is realistic. If you're telling me that this is rock bottom $1 million, no, we can't quote.
We can't quote that.
From
and I want to be very, very clear with people out there because this is where it can be. And I say to clients all the time, everyone has a dream price, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you're giving me that dream price from start and we know where the market is and you're putting a price over here, I'll be honest, I don't want your business. I don't want to work with you. I'll be honest, Josh. I'd walk away. You've seen me do it.
Yeah, but one thing I would say is we don't actually know where the market is until we go to market.
Correct,
but if we're not in agreement on what we're going to advertise at and what you're going to take, and they're two different things,
okay,
it's well off.
I'm going to ask you a question.
Correct.
We've got, and just so you know, like we've seen this happen, but we've had properties where we've listed it 3 months back. We've had all the busy bees go in. We've had our painters, styling, etc., shears, curtains, floorings, etc.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're going to say.
Right? And then we put it to market and what we priced it there and the market's maybe moved up. Well, then we have to adjust because, we need to do that. Now, if we are in a position right now where it is ready to go and I say, Josh, here's my property, and you've priced it $850, or you're saying, look, you're mid eights to low nines. And I'm like, well, based on all my work, and I've done this, and other agents are saying, they're saying between 9 and 950, I want $1 million. How do you combat that?
Well, no, now we're going to have to quote from $1 million, but the difference would be
so
you're going to limit your buyers. Yeah. I straight away, if I was sitting there and I was, you've done all this work, you've spent, 15, 20K, hold on, the valuation we gave you is, hey, we look past as it is right now. Realistically, if you're going to go to the market and you're going to take your home and show it, you need it to be presented to a high level. We are not, and we've said this, we are not the easiest to sell with, but we will get you the best price. We're not just you're just going to take everything like.
When you say we're not the easiest to sell with, what do you mean?
Well, I think we demand a lot of them on presentation. We sell very good quality homes.
True,
I don't think.
No,
let me talk.
Sorry.
Just on the basis of that's why you've had 15 record sales and I don't even like saying it.
No, it's not 15. I've had 21.
Okay, the number's grown. It was 50. Oh, maybe it is.
Mate, we just
close. Yeah, true. I forgot about the last couple that we've done. Anyway.
Yeah.
2021. Sorry, I'm just undersold.
Don't undersell
him.
Hey.
Yep, heard it loud and clear. Anyway, 21 street records. There's a reason for that. As I said, we're quality. We're not just churning over.
We're not churning over and
volume.
And one of the things is we have a certain style of doing things, and if people don't like to do that and they want to cut corners, it's like going into Rockpool. And you go in and you order and you say, well, hey, I want you to take this out of the ingredients and that.
Should have gone to Macca's.
You should have gone to Macca's. Go
that's
in there.
Simple.
And you add, if you want cheap, go cheap. Yeah. You want someone who's going to get you the best price. And when we talk about best price, whether we can get an extra 20 or 50,000 over the market, and in some situations we've been able to get over 100K, winning second division. It's like winning second division Tesolin. That is what we provide, and we're not going to budge. We're not going to budge on that. We have in the past when things, and we see it often. Clients will the first thing, and we're seeing it now. Like we're actually seeing.
Anyway, we need to stay. Let's stay on topic.
We'll stay on topic, but I'm gonna get back to it. We see people cut corners when they're trying to choose an agent. They'll base it on fee. Yep. Oh, your marketing's a little bit more. Well, no, it's not. It's what we do. The other agent's not doing the video. He reckons it's a waste of time. Oh, really? Look, can I show you under the hood? Let's have a look at the analytics that REA provide.
Just one little thing on the video. It is actually such a good thing when you have buyers walking through an open home and you have the video displayed and on.
Yeah.
The kids, they go home, they put it on YouTube.
Mate.
They start to fall in love. They sit there, they envision, they start dream, to believe.
They manifest. I've had people say, Juan, we've got home, we've put it on, and we're visualizing and seeing where we would put our furniture, this, that, and the other. I mean, to me, like $550 in the scheme of it, if I can get you an extra 20 grand, you're telling me 550 or 660, whatever it is, That's small cost. No, I don't want to do that because the other agent. Well, what's the other agent do? Let's look at his clientele. Are they just dealing with rentals? How are they, like I had a buyer the other day that I took through a property, and they said, well, look, we went through on properties. So this was a second inspection yesterday. And they said, well, we went through 10 properties and this is priced between 1.8 to 2.5. And they said, well, and this property that you are selling is by far and away the most best presented. So when we got here on Saturday, we met Josh. The owners were immaculate. I think the owner was out there on his ride-on mower, from 7:30 till 9 o'clock, whippersnipping, blowing everything, got the fire going. The inside, the owners, the wife had absolutely gone to every step of the way, and they know that it takes a lot of time, blood, sweat, and tears. Now, the bottom line is this buyer's come back and said, hey, I've had a look at all these properties. And her and a friend kept coming back saying, hey, that stood out, the feel of the home.
Well, people can tell if you take care of something.
Exactly.
Like if it's not taken care of, people feel it, they get the vibe very quickly. And even if you try and paint over it, make it glossy, do 1 to 2 months worth of work, it might help. It definitely will help.
Yep.
But it's not going to make the absolute difference.
It's all about service and expectations. We have expectations placed on us. I always say to my clients, what would you like from me and Josh and my team? And then we will say, this is what we expect from you. And it's a two-way street.
Yeah, so anyway, back to you said with when it comes to commission structure for an owner out there who's looking for someone to sell, performance based. Just make it performance based. Make a fixed percentage. Just a percentage. Work on that. And
well, you can do. I mean, there's some clients will say, look,
let's not make it complicated.
We're going to make it very clear. Here's our percentage. What we work on. So if we sell it for X, and look, sometimes in that situation, if you're 20 grand difference of what they wanted and where it landed, it's only a couple $100. But if you are going, and we're seeing it, and this is the flip side to the underquoting, we're seeing agents at the moment putting fixed fees for properties that they are overquoting. So what I mean by that is at 2.5%, they'll go, look, we usually, we'll look after you. Actually, I'll bring it up here. Let's say 2.5 at 2,500,000, and deep down they know. Just so you know, they know that the property's worth 2 to 2.2, right? But they'll go in and go, you know what, guys, because you're such good guys, I'm going to do it at 1.8% inclusive GST. So we'll just make it a 45 grand fee. Right? So when they sell it for 2 million, which this happens, it happens right now in our market. Right?
Work out the fee off that.
Right? I'm working it out.
What's 36? 1.8 at $2 million.
What's that?
36.
Divided by 2 million. That fee has gone up. They've actually got a pay rise. So they said at 1.8, at 2.5, we're going to get it done. And guess what? When it's sold at 2 million, they got 45 grand. They've still got the 45 grand fixed rate. So it's actually 2.25. So they've actually got an extra 0.5%. So when you are looking at selecting an agent, a little here and there is nothing. And this is where people get tied up. They'll get the wrong agent. They'll get people that turn up 2 minutes after the inspection. There's buyers waiting there. Sorry, I got caught up, blah, blah, blah. They're making the buyers feel like a bag of shit because they've got a timeline. I mean, these are the things that you've got to understand. Now, if you want to be tight ass, be a tight ass. But if you want the best, pay the best. I know for me, when I've had a BMW, the service that you got when you walked into that, you put your car in for a service, my God, you might have had it looking not great, but by the time you got it back, it was all detailed. It smelled fantastic. Everything was deluxe. You walked in, would you like it? And was the service a little bit more? Absolutely. Now, I'm telling you now, I've changed cars. I'm looking to go back to BMW. If you want to sponsor this, I'm just hit you up. But I'm just saying the difference between where I go now, and once again, it's a European.
Okay, outside of commission. I just want to nail that on the head.
The difference is what you get. You get what you pay for.
Yep. And then in terms of another thing, would you say that if, let's say, an agent is tardy, like what you just instantly first inspection, first appraisal, they're rocking up late? What do you think that says about? What does that say to the owner?
It shows, one, a lack of respect to the client, that his or hers time's more important, and it's a no-brainer right there.
And in terms of when they're asking about if an agent's not talking about strategy, what do you think of that?
If they're just coming
saying, hey, this is the comparables.
If they're just saying, here's the comps, what do you want? And generally speaking, the owners always have an idea. I mean, look, we know that. But if they don't have a process and a strategy to be able to get and highlight and actually explain to you how they're going to get you the best price, and it's just on a whim, well, you're hoping that you've got someone who's got experience, who knows and has result year on year on year on year that can deliver. That's gonna be a painful exercise for you if you choose the wrong agent.
Yep. And in terms of that agent, do you think it's important that the agent you employ is actually on your doorstep at the opens with the buyers?
Absolutely. I've been on both sides. So when I did, I can be open, 2009, 2010, I did over 134 transactions in 2009 to 2010. 2008 to 2009, and 2009 to 2010, over 150 transactions. Now, I couldn't facilitate and be there on every door. What I would do, I had salespeople that were working within my team. They were part of my team, but you've got teams within teams. So like right now, me and you, Josh, we work as a team, right? And you've got EBUs, how they work, but I had sales
EBU,
agents.
Effective
EBU.
Business Unit, just for those who don't know. Because it's an abbreviation.
It's an abbreviation. Thanks, Josh. So those days where I'd be at an inspection, someone would, and I actually got some really good feedback in a negative way. It was I got appointed to sell this person's home. I listed it. I wasn't there for the first inspection. I think I was there for one out of the 5 inspections. I did negotiate the deal and we got a great result. However, fast forward 6 years later, the property that I'd sold for them, they went and brought, did it up, got everything done. I wasn't even on the shopping list. Now, the key takeaway that I got was, one, you made out that you were going to be here all the time. And you weren't. You went back on your word. And I said, well, hang on. In the key part of the negotiations, I was in the thick of it. I was actually driving it, drove the price up, and they said that's irrelevant. We felt that if it was an investment property, and this is the thing, this was their first home, and they'd done a fair bit of renovation. So for me, I probably in some ways just thought from a business sense, oh look, that's at a different price point. I've got all these other properties I need to be at because they're a little bit bigger. This one here, it's going to turn over. I could get someone to be there, take names, numbers, talk to the buyers, and then we can facilitate the offer process. I learned the hard way. They went and gave it to another agent. And one of the things I learned from that was, do I want to be on the door? Absolutely. If someone engages me, I will be there. If for whatever reason it may be, I love meeting people. I love talking about the area that I live in and breathe and socialize in. There's nothing better than an advocate for the area. You know how many agents, by the way, that don't live in the LGA or within or go out, they live elsewhere, but they only work in Frankston because they don't want to be there. They don't want to see people's faces. Oh shit, there's that owner that I'd promised. They don't want to be there. Hey, I can tell you what coffee shops I'm at. For those who know, there's plenty of coffee shops. I say good day to people. I love being within the community. I'm a football coach. I'm a dad. Got local schools. We participate. We're sponsors of major, soccer clubs, footy clubs. VFL Frankston, Frankston YCW, Peninsula Strike. We love what we do because we want to be seen. And
I saw our board had fallen down for the Strikers. On Crinkle.
Yeah,
what's the name? At Bellon Park.
Now,
we're
going to get another one up.
We will. Just want to ask, what do you think? Obviously, we've kind of identified some key things, and hopefully for those out there, they can take a few little things. I think, like you said, tardiness, commission structure. I think pricing, if they're not going off if they're going too high, just be cautious of that. And if someone's going too low and saying, "Oh no, you're definitely going to get that," and we want a kicker, then maybe be careful of that.
And also remember, experience matters. Like, and this is where a lot of people just go, it's all good.
Yeah. And I think in terms of the fourth one, and I think that's what we just touched on a little bit, the expectations. I think if you are employing someone, you're employing them and their team. You want to make sure that, they're prominent. They're the agent of choice for a reason. It's not, you can't get away with, AI and technology is not going that far that you can't have the human interaction. An agent is valuable for the negotiation and the marketing of your home.
Absolutely.
Negotiating and arguably lifetime with auction, stuff like that is going to be the most important thing to achieve a great outcome for you. Now, what would you say in terms of questions for an owner to ask based on those, 4 or 5 things we've just discussed? What do you think, your number 1 and number 2 questions should be for an owner when they're interviewing an agent?
Firstly, I would say, look, we've got you. Well, generally speaking, you'll get called out. So whoever gets called out, ask the question: 1, are you going to be, the on the door meeting and greeting the buyers?
Yep.
Number 1. Number 2, ask them about the process. Have you got a clear, defined process that your office works within? 2, Point 3, if it is private sale, how do you run the offer process? Is it best and final, or is it transparent where, it could each office is different. So just get an understanding.
And I would, one thing I would probably do as well, challenge the agent. See if they're willing to drop their fee straight away. Because if
I was going to say that because I was.
You can't. He's claiming what I was going to say.
Oh, yeah, I was claiming.
It's a podcast of 2 people, not just.
Yeah, true. It's not the Juan show.
Oh,
it's the Josh show. That is a fantastic line.
Yeah.
Because it will demonstrate to you quickly whether this person's a strong negotiator
or not,
or even how they're going to handle a low ball offer.
Or how they're going to handle the negotiation. Yeah. So if they get one offer, how are they going to handle that negotiation between you and the buyer? And then if they get multiple offers, what does that process look like? And if, why should we be going to auction, or why should we be doing a private sale? Ask these questions because they are important. I do think that can define what an agent is actually trying to do. And if they get great results and they're consistently delivering, then their process, they should be so caught up in the process and making it better and better each and every time that they'll be able to assist you the best way.
Did you know roughly the difference between a really good agent and a bad agent? Like, it's generally, it can be between 2 to say $5,000 difference in fee. All right? But your cheapest agent generally will be your most expensive cost. Because when they are dropping the ball, and it's also with the marketing side of things. Like we have, anyone could say, "Oh yeah, we don't need to do journalism. We'll just do AI based on the photos." No, AI still gets it wrong.
There are circumstantial. So I think like you said, and we see it, and like I said, we're not the easiest to deal with. We actually sometimes miss opportunities because we've probably gone in and said, "Hey, this is our process from a presentation. We need you to do this, this, and this," and they come back and go, "Oh no, we didn't want to do any of that. We've gone with the other agent because they've just said we'll just put it on and we'll get it sold." And it's like,
that's the other good point that you want to ask. And this is how many clients have we got right now? We've got a backlog of clients that are, they're getting their house prepped. What I mean by that, it's showtime, show ready. They're getting the painters in, they're getting the shears in, the curtains, the flooring done, the gardens, the turf, all of these things. So when we hit the market, we are going to bounce out really well.
one thing I think, and any viewer can probably take away from us, is that when we take a property to the market, the owner's ready to sell. They're motivated.
Yeah.
They're serious about it. It's not just a waste of time. It's not splash and hope. It's been calculated. There's a clear strategy. Everyone knows the expectation from them, and the buyers can feel that. They feel that energy.
The buyers feel it. They feel
that they're here to sell. They're not just here to waste time. And anyone out there, I do believe this. I know that there's a lot of, there are some owners that will just test the market, put their property on and just see what they're going to get for various different reasons. However, it is becoming quite expensive to go online and advertise your home. So if you do see properties going on, make a play for it. That brings me to one other thing that I wanted to just quickly touch on as a buyer tip right now.
Yep.
I'm seeing a lot of people that will wait and go, wait until tell me if someone else makes an offer, or keep me in the loop if something else changes.
Idiot.
Hold on. You're actually inviting competition.
Yeah.
You're actually inviting the ability to increase the property price that you will end up paying.
Yep.
As a buyer, think about it like this, right? Say you're a swimmer and you're going for the 100-meter sprint and you got to get there first, right? When the what is it, the bell or the siren or whatever when they go and it goes beep.
It's a shotgun.
It's the beep. It's a shotgun. Do you jump in, or what do you do? You just jump straight in. You're not thinking about your left and your right. You're just going straight in. You're trying to get there first. That is the best route. If you see a quote guide, you deal with the agent, you see if there's an opportunity, jump in. I would not be hesitating. I think there's a lot of people that do wait, and then we see it and you're like, wow, they actually probably paid an extra $100,000 because they've just extended themselves because they invited the competition. They just wanted to be kept in the loop when someone else did it.
I've seen people, in some ways they're waiting, they're sitting on the fence, and it can be, it'll cost them $100,000.
Yeah.
I think what happens, it's all circumstantial as well, and it's case by case. But when a property does go to market, there's usually a pool of buyers that are sitting there ready to go. You got to remember, it's like a conveyor belt. Over the 6-week period, every buyer that's just looking, as soon as they've put in a suburb, they're being prompted by AI.
Here's
Amazon
day, Prime gift.
Here's
of the
your
new
gift,
property.
new property. And then when there's a price change, they get a notification too. So that also shows there's a bit of motivation there. If the owners are looking to adjust the price and sharpen the pencil, reset and get closer to the market, that's always a good sign too.
Yeah.
Now what I find interesting is you've got people that as soon as a property comes on, they go, we're just going to wait. The market. We've been talking to our Uncle Robbo, and they're saying that the market's going to come back another 20%. And I'm like, well, yeah, you can wait.
Robbo was probably right. I mean, COVID. The markets always go up, down, flat line, up, down, flat line. And
that was only 6 years ago, and we saw, evidently, it would have been 6 years ago this time. We didn't know that the government was going to fund what they were going to do. They didn't have that. The governments were busy preparing what they were going to do, and we saw an increase of prices like there was no tomorrow.
I want to say this: there's only a certain amount of homes right now in every location. Yes, they're trying to make more, but guess what? The cost of construction is through the roof. Council are holding back on a lot of things.
Yep.
And I was watching, it was really good. I was watching Charlie in the Chocolate Factory yesterday. This is the weirdest thing. He gets the golden ticket and the kid comes up, the kid grabs it, the chocolatier is like, you found the golden ticket. All these people swarm around him and goes, I'll pay you 50, I'll pay you 500. And the shop owner goes, no, you run back to your parents. He runs back to his parents and he goes, I found the golden ticket. He goes, but I'm going to sell it because we could use the money. And the guy around the thing turns around and goes,
his grandfather.
Yeah, his grandfather, and goes, the opportunity of this is very rare and there's only 5 people in the world that will ever have this opportunity. It's no different. Properties aren't just popping up left, right and center. There's going to be different opportunities, but they're also in very different locations. It's going to be very different for your lifestyle. So when you
is it near your family, is it near your friends? And this is the thing, we are human beings. We love to be connected with our people. And unless you're moving interstate or if it's an investment where there's really not emotional, most people, it's different, but there's people that are moving and transacting all the time. So to me, the market's still fairly, it's good. You just need, from a seller's perspective, they just need to understand that they need to reset position themselves in the market in a good place where permission to sell is going to be there and you'll get a couple buyers there.
Yeah. Now, in terms of the current market, how are you finding it? I mean, the clearance rate, I just want to, I shouldn't have said how you're finding it. I shouldn't have. I think, for anyone that's watching, I don't know if anyone's noticed this. I ask a question and then I flow off the question, which is hilarious. Anyway, the metro clearance rate, 55.1% over the weekend. Oh, don't cut me off. How did you find that?
Well, look, in our LGA, it's a little bit better, but look, the thing that I've always had this since ever, I think RP Data and or CoreLogic, whoever they are, now Cotality, they have always been providing those auction clearance rates, and for me, I've seen that as a real gauge as to how the buyer sentiment is from the buyers, and when the clearance rate, is tracking at 80%, that's because there's either low supply, high demand, and the buyers they don't care. They're just going to go as hard as they can. What we're finding is there are a lot of properties going to auction. And I think it's a two-tier scenario, Josh. So I look at those numbers and people are like, it's a buyer's market. And I'm like, it's definitely where the numbers are suggesting that, absolutely. What I am seeing and noticing, and I think what you'll start to see is when owners start to get realistic and understand, okay, well, my house was worth maybe 1.5 3 months ago. I may need to look at 1.45. Well, then they can adjust. Then you'll start to get more owners when the results start to trickle in. Then owners will reset. And
I'm seeing a lot more buyers. It's funny, you go around and you drive the Frankston and Frankston South, suburbs. The amount of under contract and sold stickers up on boards is actually quite incredible, considering what they're saying on the media. So it is interesting. It's really
but hang on.
No.
There's a certain road that I would go. Well, there's one road at the moment. I think there's about 15 boards and only one under contract.
Well, that we don't talk about that one.
Yeah, but
What's that one?
But it's a main road in Frankston South. So what I'm trying to say is, I'm not going to don't give it away, but I'm just saying there are reasons. There are a lot of solves.
Yeah, but if you watch the Sky Hammer one, that's the clear reason for that one.
Yeah, but if you're on a main road, it's certainly
that is a bit of a disadvantage. What was I going to say? I've had a mental blank. I had a really good point and then it got cut off.
Sorry, we're talking about the clearance rates, buyers, 55%. I can tell you now, in the marketplace at the moment, we've got some unique sort of properties. So the buyer inquiry or email inquiry and general inquiry has been very slow. So that comes back to now going through our effective database, people that we'd already gone, but just getting on the phones, prompting these buyers, hey, I know this was something that you would have looked at. What's the situation? So we're getting these buyers into properties, but what we are seeing is certainly there's been a lower...
there's a lower amount of demand, and that's actually what I was going to bring myself back to. The ones that are serious though, and I think the reason for a lot of, there's a lot of movement in the area. We had a very good March, and we've got, we've had some really good private viewings over the last week as well at some of the, bigger properties. Yeah. Like we've said, anything over that 1.5 is, you're finding a unique buyer anyway.
Correct.
So you're trying to find a ready to go cashed up buyer who's, not relying on finance clauses, stuff like that. They're more diligent. You're not it's as an agent, this sounds really funny, you're not dealing with the cold and unserious buyers anymore. They've shipped themselves off. We're actually dealing with people who are ready to go, who are serious about making a move, and they're trading in the same market too. So we are seeing a lot more of that compared to, when the market's really buoyant and you've got every buyer bouncing off you, it can be hard to distinguish and push your time to the right people. Yep. But we are seeing a lot more people going, okay, we're going to get through privately. Let's have a look at the home. We'll tour with them. We can actually spend the proper time with these buyers who are, financed up, cash ready, got a deposit, and they're good to go. So now we're going to play our little game, which we haven't played in a little bit of a while. But what we're going to do is I'm going to go through. We've got 5 questions here.
Sure. Far away.
That's would you rather.
Would you rather? Okay.
Hire the agent with the most sales in your suburb, or hire the agent your neighbour personally recommends.
Oh, that's a interesting one. Because if you've got the most sales, logic tells you that there'd be a lot of buyers that are on their database. And then you've got the other one where I firmly believe if a neighbour or a friend has recommended someone, it's because they've experienced a great experience. And sometimes the agents that have got the most results don't necessarily have the best experiences.
Correct.
So I would probably say based on, you want to go with a recommended agent that has experience without doubt. And I'm sure the ones that are getting recommended are the experienced agents anyway.
One thing you said earlier, and I know you meant it in the way of experience matters individually, but if you look at it from experience, matters, as the agent, you got 25 years, that's great. But if you look at it, the experience from someone who has sold through someone, and if they're passing on that recommendation, they've had a great experience.
Yeah.
So you look at that and you go, okay, that's probably a good way. I think the only time that might work to go with an agent who does the most volume would be if you're looking for purely off-market, quick sale, get it done. Yeah, we don't do the most sales, but we have a lot of buyers. We ran the numbers. Yeah. We did close to 50 deals. We met over 2,072 buyers. Yeah. So if you look at the numbers on that and you go, how many bought? We interacted with just over 100 buyers and sellers. And you look at that, we've still got 1,950 plus. Yeah. I'm going to just say plus because it's more.
Yeah.
And you go, okay, so and of which you've got sellers in there and you've got buyers. You've got hot, warm, colds.
You got to be actively, organically,
flushing through,
harvesting the database that you've currently got. So, look, if you've got a big database, like as in a rent roll, we're seeing that at the moment where and this is a good tip for those people that are looking to buy an investment property. There are some big companies that have huge rent rolls with clients that are over interstate, they're interstate or overseas. They're the ones you want to be talking to and aligning yourself with because you can potentially pick up a really good deal. And I've given that information and freely to good people that I know and they've been able to successfully get good deals where the owners have, the landlords don't have any idea of what's going on. All they do is see the condition report, which shows that the place is in dire straits and the tenant hasn't looked after it. And to get it off their hands or to go to VCAT, it's just easier just to sell it. So we do see that, yeah.
Now, say you had a vacant home, vacant property, no furniture, no one's living in it. It's just you're just out of it. Would you rather pay 1.8% with no marketing budget, so you're going off market with an agent and you're not styling, or pay 2.5% with a full marketing campaign and styling, let's call it, and round off to just over $10,000?
Well, that depends if you're the buyer or seller.
I'm not asking.
If I'm a buyer, I'm happy to go 1.8. I want the owner just to get the quick sale because generally speaking, a quick sale is an easy sale, and I would say it's going to benefit me as a buyer. As a seller, I think if it was me, my experience, what I've seen, you'll get the odd, wood duck that comes out of the off market, but generally speaking, the biggest records, it's no different to like at the Olympics. There can be records broken. We saw Gout the other day do a record broken in Australia. However, generally speaking, most world records are broken when there's huge competition. That's at the Olympics. That's why, you know why? Because the best are there to compete. And that's when you go to market, that is what you want as a seller. So I would say the 2.5, full marketing, go for it.
Competition,
price. Bring it on. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, that makes perfect sense. I would do the exact same thing. And just factor in for any sellers out there, think about how much time the agent has to spend if they're selling it off market versus when they're selling on market. If they're suggesting an auction campaign, it's usually a lot more work than private sales. So just have a little think about that. Now, what we're going to do, you're in a situation where you've just had an agent out.
Yep.
The agent has tells you 1.2 that you will achieve.
Yep.
You end up selling for 1.15, or he tells you 1.1 million on a level and you end up selling for 1.15. So the same price, you get the same result, but the agent told you a higher price to begin with or a lower price. What would you go with? It's a really...
It's a look, greed is one of the biggest drivers in
the world.
And it's one of the deadly sins. So you're going to find that most people will gravitate towards, if someone's saying 1.2 and the other agent's saying 1.1, I think, realistically, people have it in their heart where they sit.
That's a really good way to look at it.
And I think at the end of the day, it comes back to the individual. So for me, I'm more of a realist where I go, you know what, like, it depends. If, say, someone wants to move out quick, like lickety split, if I put it on for 1.2, we might be there times money. Whereas, if we quoted, if you weren't in a
hurry, you weren't in any hurry
you
whatsoever,
could put it on for 1.2. Yeah, you would, you put it there, and then the agent would say, well, we'll put it on, we'll adjust it in.
Why would you do that when you know that the first 2 to 3 weeks of realestate.com are your most crucial?
Well, hang on, Josh. The agent didn't tell me that.
No. Okay. Well,
so that's what I'm trying to say. There's some agents that won't say your first 2 weeks. You can always bring the property price up and you can bring it down. The thing is, the first 2 weeks is where you get the most amount of traction.
Anyone who hasn't sold, and this is actually a really good one. Anyone who hasn't sold in the last 20 years, that landscape, the way dynamic, the way the engine works on how the buyers see your home is completely different. Back in the day, you'd have to the buyers would walk down to the shop fronts, knock on the door like the seagulls. This is where we want to go. Can you drive us out there? Book in a time. Nowadays, hey, we're advertised online. Everyone can see everything.
Everything's at your fingertips. Yeah.
And the problem with that as well, if you do go high, you're scrolling. You're scrolling usually in the same location, and comparable properties that you're competing against are there too. If you're overly priced, people will just go, oh, they might save it. Not going to really come and look at it unless you're serious. So the first 2 weeks are your highest visibility on real estate.
I would say you'd rather be pleasantly surprised than overpromise, underdeliver.
We talked about agents and reputations. You want someone who's going to actually underpromise and overdeliver and make sure they do the right job. Yep. Obviously, if they're putting kickers in over 1.1 or 1.05, then that's an issue.
Well,
you know what I mean?
That's why he's no longer working in the industry. So
Now, would you rather have an agent with 200 Google reviews or one that would let you call their last 5 clients?
Last 5 clients.
Why is that?
Because you're right in the market now. But
he had 200 Google reviews of 5 stars.
Well, that actually counts for something too.
No, it's funny because you have 260 odd or something.
Well, we've got a couple more that just come. But what I'm saying is, my last 5 clients, you're only like in football terms, and as a footy coach, you're only as good as your last game. So you could have had first 4 games really good, then the last couple you've been a little bit shaky, and then the last one. You place in your football, you're going to get a tap on the shoulder. So to me, I want to see how you're going, because over a 200, there's people that have 200 Google reviews, but they might not have had a review for the last, 6 to 12 months, because they may have gone through a breakup with their marital, whatever. They could be going through some hard times.
They could have reconfigured their whole team.
They could have they could have had key components in their team. Like in the EBU.
Changed industry. Not industry, changed agencies.
Yeah, they've changed agencies, which has slowed the momentum. They've moved to a different area. And you're thinking, oh, yeah, they've got those reviews, but you're not getting what you're getting. So I think the last 5 sales in that area, that is gold. Absolute gold.
All right, 2 more questions. I actually have 6 for you.
Yeah.
Would you choose an agent based on their awards or based on their answer to what's your plan if this property doesn't sell in 30 days?
I would say the awards, look.
It's a hard one because you've got the right. You like that. It's a really hard one.
I've won awards at big franchises and whatnot, and it's gratifying because of the work that you do. And I'm not going to take the gloss away from anyone that's been a successful winner. There's no doubt. I think it's, to me, the work that I've done. But for someone like myself who's been in the industry for a long time, awards can be great when you first start out because it's a recognition and validation within your industry, and it's really good. But at the end of the day, it's about making sure that you do the right thing by your client. So
that's great advice,
and that's it in a nutshell.
So both, essentially, not really, but if you can, ideally, if you can have both, you've got
if you
someone
can have
who,
both,
who cares. But like you said, they care about being recognised for top performing service in the industry and being acknowledged as, hey, you are a winner in this space. But they're also, because first and foremost, the client came first. That's at the end of the day. Last question, then we're going to wrap this up. Would you rather have an auction with 8 registered bidders and a low quote guide, or private sale with 3 serious buyers at the right price? And what I mean by that is they're at the permission to sell price.
Okay. So the low quote range, look, don't get me wrong, when you, how many, 8 or 9? 8. As an auctioneer, if I know that there's 8 registered bidders and there's been a range and the reserve is in that range, give me that every day of the week. If the owners have agreed, if we've got a range of, say, 895 to 950, reserves 950, and I've got 9 buyers registered, mate, and we're on, mate.
Every day.
Every day.
So you would say if you had 8 registered with the reserved inside the range, but just at the very top of the end of the range, you would take 8 registered.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I know that I could push those buyers without doubt with the skill set that I have and with the experience and what I've been able to do.
Yeah.
I know for a fact that will pump, that will go north of $1 million quite easily.
What about if you didn't know where the feedback of price was coming in from the agent? What would you do then?
Well, firstly, if I didn't have the feedback coming in from the agent as an auctioneer, that in itself is dangerous.
No, as the owner.
Well, as the owner, that's a flag of, hope you didn't put a kicker on the reserve, because if they tie you into a reserve and you don't have any indication on where the price is, you're going to be paying a huge price.
I don't think that. Look, I don't think there's a lot of good in this industry. I shouldn't say that. No.
But, okay, so
if I bring it back, it's a silly question. What it's trying to prompt is, if you are an owner and you're on the market, asking where your price feedback is always a great question. You will get that as soon as you get interest. And negotiation only starts when you have interest. If you don't have interest, you can have great foot traffic, because like we just said, your first 2 weeks, you will get high visibility, you get high foot traffic. And if you know you're going to win, you're going to know you're going to have, if you got competition and you have a couple of people fight it out, if you have 8 on the auction day and you know everyone's inside that range, you have every bit of confidence knowing you are going to sell it for more than 950 comfortably.
Well, the most important kicker there, Josh, and we know this, is where are the budgets? So what the range is, that becomes irrelevant.
Yeah, 100%.
Because when we give certainty to a buyer that we have the reserve in the range and it is somewhere there, we've seen agents go, we've got a range, and then I know that the reserve, we've moved it on the day or 2 before the auction. So these people got building inspections, paid all this money, and then all of a sudden moved the range. That in itself is disheartening. We know that when you have multiple buyers and they've got a budget, and say it's at 895, 950, and they're like, you know what, Josh, Juan, we're looking to renovate that. And I'm like, okay, how much you got to spend? What other properties you've been looking at? What other offers have you made? Oh, yeah, we made an offer around the corner, 1.15. Straight away, that's a telltale sign for us. Okay, that's great. We know that they've got the money. If they need to get into a bidding war, which they will, they're going to pay what needs to be paid on that day.
Yeah. That's the one thing I do love about just working one area. You just know the market. You're seeing, you're active, you see new listings, you're seeing new sales, and you can recommend straight away. If you have an owner who's still actively looking that we've sold for, you can get in touch with the agent and say, hey, where are you at with this one? Can we look at putting something forward? And then the other thing is you get the ability to pass on properties that, we might not at the time have a property for that buyer, but if we see something and we go, that'd be perfect for John or whoever it is. Yeah. It's actually such a good attribute to have. I think that'd be probably my only other thing that I would include is, if you are going to use an agent, use someone who is local, who does know who the buyers are, what the buyers are going to spend, and has a very good ability of selling the lifestyle. If it is a lifestyle location that's very owner dominated, you want to make sure you have someone there. So guys, thank you so much for watching. We're going to wrap this one up. Please like, subscribe. I don't know what you do on Spotify, but you just follow, I think.
Follow.
But on YouTube, like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you.
See ya.